Simplifiers is the podcast that cuts through the complexity of digital transformation to reveal what works. Created by Soltech, hosted by Amel Gaily, and built for anyone who believes clarity beats complexity every time. In this episode, we explore what successful delivery really looks like, not just in theory, but in practice, where plans meet reality and the relationships define results. Host Amel Gaily is joined by Asger Jensen, Silke Cronberg, and Pia Björn from Soltech.
When a client says, we want success, what do they actually mean, Asger?
Basically, they want to have more benefit from us than what we cost, right? They want to come to us, they want to present what they think the problem is, what they think the solution is, and then they want us to come in and say, you know what, we've actually done that before, that didn't work, this is not our experience, this has worked a lot better, and we know how to do this, and we know how to frame it, and make you look good in your organization and meet the, make sure that you can deliver a good result to your bosses. Because at least on my level, on the implementation level, I rarely get to talk to the C-level, right? I maybe do that in the bid process, but after that, it's somebody else's job to kind of see it done. So I make sure that they look good, make sure that we look good, everybody feels that it's a success.
Have there been situations where something looks like success on paper, but may feel like actually a failure to the client? Silke, do you recall any situations like this?
Feel like a failure to a client? Well, I feel like in the projects that I have, been managing, I have been really keen on, communicating and telling them and, alignment expectation, just to be sure that we are not ending up as a failure. Because the worst thing I could feel is for a customer saying, yeah, well, we just spent thousands of, euros, and this is not what we want, because that feeling, I really don't want to feel that at all. So I want to bring value in every interaction with the customer. And that for me means that, really talking about the process in the early beginning and throughout. So to avoid any sort of failures.
It's a critical point. Yeah. Go ahead.
Of course, another point could also be that when you start the project or the feature development or whatever, then you have an assumption as a customer. You expect this to happen, and then you learn on the way that we need to change that expectation, or we need to change that goal, because it's not what you truly want to. So if you're, looking at the start, then you might end up with something completely different. So, you could interpret that as a failure, but in the end, you ended up getting more value because that is the right solution. So, depending on where you are in that customer level, you could maybe be on the, top level and, heard a little about the project, and then you see the end result and like, what? Is this where we are ending? But so maybe that could be a feeling of failure, but either way, it's the right way to go.
Exactly. Clarity in kind of the early phases. That's what will define success later on.
Yeah.
Can we say it like that?
Back to your question to Silke. Sometimes when we as a provider feels that this was successful project because we were able to reach the budget and schedule, then it might be that our customer feels that the end result, it wasn't what they expected. So it's to be successful, so that we feel it as a provider and customer feels it. That's actually challenging.
Yeah, and one of the things that comes into that is making sure that they understand that they have a role to play too. Right? You can't just hand it off, somebody goes away, everything just magically solves itself. A lot of time we provide some tools and then they have to make some internal changes or implement it in the organization in a way. And we have to remember to kind of help them do that. And I feel that the best projects we have are the ones where we are able to talk to that, and we're able to help them to not just get the technical bits in place, but see them be adopted by the organization, explain to them that they will need training, they should plan for this and that and the other thing, and see them go through it, right? We might not be the ones actually doing it, but we can still make sure that they understand that it's not an end all to just get a box of tools. You actually have to be a mechanic to make it work.
You're completely right, Asger, because one of the things I really, dislike is when a customer is saying, hey, I'm just, handing you the budget and the money, and then I will see you in 6 months and you will be done and I will have what I expect to get. It's like, no, please, that is just the beginning of disaster from day one. And also, on the internal side, if the developer says, oh, well, let me just do my work and I will just show you in the end when everything is done, then everything will be fine. Then I'm like, every flashlight is blinking. It's like, no, please stop. We need to communicate. We need to show what we are doing. We need to have our thoughts played out in the room so everybody can pitch in, because I know that we in Soltec are quite good on the technical part. We are quite good at looking at solution, but what the customer is bringing in for this to be a success is for us to be invited into their business, to understand their business need and understand what is driving them and understand where they want to move to. Because we can give so much, give so many ideas, but come on, we could guess wrong in that area.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm guessing that is where your role is really crucial, because you are talking to, all these different layers we have internally and also with the customer, where you have all the endpoints where you can really push that thought and understanding.
I can say that a lot of times in a project you'll have, like on my level in the trenches, we never speak about money, right? Because we don't know if it's been billed or not. It doesn't matter, because in the end, this is a task that needs to get done. And if it's decided to get done, it's somebody else's problem to figure out if it's being paid for or not, right? And that's where the steering committees and all the other stuff that goes on top of it comes in and kind of smooths that out, because it allows a super honest discussion between the development team and the customer, that we have these problems, this isn't working, we're gonna have to do this, we're gonna spend this amount of time on it, and it needs to be prioritized ahead of other stuff that you might have wanted. But if you can get that separation in, then you don't have that. You don't bleed back the bad faith of, oh, but the customer was super angry and he doesn't want to pay and so on, because that's not your problem, right? You're here to make the thing go beep. So go ahead and just do your work. Somebody else will deal with all that other stuff.
Exactly.
And that kind of allows us at the trends level to be very open and direct with the client about the actual situation of their project, the things we believe they should do, and go from there. And if they then choose not to proceed on our recommended approach, well, that's fine, because we've been able to do it without having to kind of think about what is the impact if I say this. Are they going to be mad? Are they going to be everything? Because that's somebody else's problem. You're here to tell exactly how it is, exactly what you need to do, and then build that trust with the client, right?
Exactly.
Get to a point where he believes that if you're that he's getting the correct answer for his problem.
Exactly. And clear roles and responsibilities. I want to continue with you, Asger, because you talk about continuous delivery as production +1. What does that mean?
Normally when we meet a new client, we typically always talk about these agile projects. And a lot of the time that boils down into something like Lean or Kanban or Scrum or whatever it's called. And they're very often centered around planning a release. It's all about, you get this, and even if it's safe, it's even harder. But if you're sitting down and saying, in 3 months we're going to deliver these 15 items, and you only deliver 14, it's going to feel like a failure, right? Because you didn't actually do the full thing. So even if you're in an agile project, once you've committed to a specific content of a release, it just feels like nobody remembers that this is supposed to be agile. So what we are trying to do instead with the with the customers that can organizationally encompass this, is to apply continuous delivery instead. And continuous delivery is in technical terms means that whenever you're done with something, it goes to production immediately. And we have a way then of kind of, and that means that we can isolate each new feature that comes out as something that the customer can look at, evaluate, try out before they decide if it's ready to go or not. With the more release-based approach, typically what you see is you work for 3 months and you put everything together, and then QA comes in, they look at it, now there's something wrong, now you need to extract some of it. Maybe you need to figure out if it was this or that kind of broke the thing. But when you're always looking at what is in production plus one feature, it's very easy to do QA because you know exactly that you know what is being touched, you know what you need to test, and everything else you know is untouched. Right? You don't have this black box of new stuff that you hope isn't interfering with each other. So what we have for those kind of customers is, instead of planning a full release at a time, we're always just looking at what's next, right? So there is a project manager who has a task of keeping the pipeline full. So when a developer gets done with something, he pushes it, it builds, it deploys to its own unique URL, where QA can look at it, the customer can look at it, and whenever they approve it, it goes into production. Because each feature represents a monetary value, right? Either in time saved by the client, if it's some administrative thing, or money earned by having new features on the site that convert more. So having it wait for 15 other things to go out is just a waste of money, because it's now sitting there not earning any money, even though it isn't really related to all the other stuff. And it also means that as a customer, you can come in the morning and say, we have this new thing from our CEO, it needs to go out today. And we can take that, and we don't have to have a special process around hot fixing or quick building or whatever thingamabob you'd need to have in other kinds of setups, because it's just a new feature that starts from production plus one new element, which is what the CEO wanted. It goes into the test environment, he can improve it, and goes to production immediately, right? So that's the kind of flows that we see, that if we're able to get the customer on board with that, if they are able to embrace it, that makes a big difference in terms of output, right? We can literally deploy 200 times a year to production instead of 4 or 10 or whatever we are doing with the other.
Yeah, and another thing is also for, from the customer point of view, internal in the customer's organization, it feels like, you're getting value of all the development money you're spending, because you can see rapidly changing environments faster.
True.
But I have to say that, of course, choosing the right project model or way of work, it's our job to do before we start an implementation. Of course, it depends about customer maturity or about the scope or schedule or even budget, what works for the best. And that's actually, we as a professional IT company, it's our job to do or make a decision which model suits the best. Sometimes very agile way.
That's true, because when you want to go with this, if you want to go with this continuous delivery model, the customer needs to be super engaged, right? Because if we're ready in the morning and you're not willing to test it until tomorrow, I don't even get why we're here, right? Because if this was important to you, you should be as invested as we are in getting this out. And sometimes maybe that's not physically possible. Maybe that person is running 15 different projects. He can only be there once every 2 days or 4 days, right? And then we have to do something else. So that's why I'm saying that it needs to, for the customers where it fits, it's a really great fit. And we're trying always to challenge the customer to see, can they do this, right? Can we get you to this? Because there is so many upsides to it, because everything gets simpler. Like QA gets simpler, development gets simpler, because you're now only focusing on exactly one thing. Your infrastructure gets simpler because you only have, you don't need 6 different environments for QA and pre-test and sandbox and whatever. You only have QA, which is actually not for testing anymore. It's just like a mirror of production, because everything that you develop and you test is on its own little isolated thing that dies when it's done, right? And you can get all this rapid development done, and it but it does mean it does mean that if you go back to the original Agile manifesto and you look at who's going to be involved in a project, you only want people who have skin in the game, right?
Yes.
Don't want people who just come in just to get a report or just to be in the loop. Nope, that's not a thing, right? We're here together. We're building a project. Some of the people are here are ours. Some of the people are the customers. We have customers where they put their own developers in, because then they're even more embedded, right? And we're just an extension of their organization, and everything just flows equally between us in that sense.
What do you think, Silke?
Well, one thing to, the long list of benefits of why doing this, it's also for, from the customer view where you can actually see the impact on these little features one by one to actually see what mattered, instead of having this big pile of new features. You don't really know which one did the magic trick. Did anyone do it? What was it, overloading with new features for, the customer journey? So it's, So on that point, it's also, beneficial to break it down and get it out as soon as it can.
Well, if someone's wondering, then how do you build delivery teams that are ready for constant iteration? What would be your advice?
For me, it's something with the mindset of the developer. Of course, I would love him to be super fast and skilled, right? Just to spit out codes. But it's the mindset of sharing what you're doing at the minute you are doing it. It's not for just one more day and then I'm ready to do it. No, it's not like that. And it's also to have the mindset of be proud of what you're delivering. Of course, we have different roles, so it's not like you need to have it to work perfectly, because we have a QA that will do that. But it's like to be really realistic in what you're coding and seeing. Especially, we have some front end people that is questioning our user journey, because you can only imagine so much on paper and on the different Figma files, but when you see it actually live and clicking around, then they are raising in the status meeting, does this actually make sense? And then you can iterate super fast, because it's not in the end where you're discovering it.
What do you think, Pia? Anything to add?
Well, I would say that our teams, they are used to work with different way of works, because we might have like classic waterfall implementations as well. Sometimes it works. So we rather try to build our project or customer teams so that we will pick the best available people and put them together who would fit that implementation team the best. And of course, we would like to allocate interesting work to our people. So of course, we take in consideration what kind of future career path wishes our people has, and then start building the team based on wishes, and of course about the knowledge.
I think to me it's the ability to clearly communicate your ideas, not just to your peers, but to the client as well, right? I find that the teams that work, we're a geographically distributed company. I think that's fair to say, right? And we've struggled with the whole, we're a Danish team, we're a Finnish team, we're a whatever team. But we actually managed now to kind of make it so we pick a team of people and they can be anywhere, right? And that means that our office is Slack. That's where you go. That means that you cannot just be sitting in direct messages 2 and 2. Right? You have to speak in the public channel. You have to have your ideation, your kind of would this work? How should we do this? Because that's the equivalent of going through the hallway of an office and hearing somebody saying something and say that's wrong, right? Good thing you said that out loud, because I can now say that is not how this works, right? Let's go here, or maybe you come in and you get inspired to bring your own thoughts to the game. But everybody is expected to participate, right? Everybody is expected to be to tell the client exactly what they want.
Yeah.
We are not having a situation where somebody needs to tell Silke to tell the client to do something, because that's simply not.
Sometimes you do,
Yeah, I
Asger,
do sometimes,
I
but
must say.
but that's typically not cost efficient, right? Because
Yeah.
if you were able to formulate it to tell Silke, then you can tell the client, right? The client isn't slack as well. Just talk to him. Ask him, is this what you want? Can we do this way instead? And so on.
I don't know if you remember the whisper game when you were a kid, right?
Yes.
I really
of
want
telephone,
to, exactly, I want to avoid that whispering game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Broken telephone.
Exactly.
I'll whisper something and it'll get changed.
The worst part is then that when you get in, then Silke calls a meeting, and then it's like, Asger, you had a question for Pia, and then it's like, dude, that doesn't make sense, right? So because we're all adults here, right? Then we expect, and if we hired you to do this job, it's because we know that you're able to do it. So please don't be shy. Come out, tell the customer what you think should be done. I'll tell you afterwards if I think that we could do it differently. We're not in a bad way, but we can do feedback afterwards. But it's always allowed to come out and talk to the client directly. Just put your ideas out there, and we'll because that's also a way for the client to feel he gets something for his money. Right?
Exactly.
You don't want to have this room full of people that you don't really know. Right? You're paying for all of them, but somehow it's only her talking to you, right?
Yes.
What's going on here?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about next regarding what happens when delivery breaks down. Now, we've heard actually quite a few examples already, but let's drill down a little bit more. So, Silke, what's your take? When delivery stumbles, where do the cracks usually start?
Well, it really depends on how it starts. I feel like you can predict it to crumble if it starts on the wrong foot. For example, if it starts with the customer saying, I just have this Excel sheet, the specification with 623 points that you need to deliver. And then I will see you in 8 months and I will expect everything to be smoothly fine and good. Then I'm like, yeah, that's the wrong way to start it, because we really want to tap into the business, the understanding the customer need, and also the understanding on why are we doing this? What is the reason behind? Because the worst thing is also for a customer to say, oh, I really want this new cool stuff, the new technology. I want everything in this new system. And by the way, it needs to look like the old one and it needs to work like the old one. And then I'm also like, I really want the point to be that it's bringing value to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Pia, when something is starting to go wrong, from your experience, how can we recover trust?
Well, of course, we need to be honest to our customers. And it's actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's actually pretty common that the plan we made in the first place, it won't work when we proceed with the implementation. And then we need to change the approach.
And that's completely normal because you get more knowledge.
Yes, and sometimes things take more time than we estimated, and also customer needs, they might change. But I think the honesty and communication, it's the key to success. So when something starts to go not as planned, we need to raise it up and discuss about it. And of course, we need to suggest a new approach or few options how to proceed from here. But I guess, and I mean, it's as a customer, it's good to recognize you might need to be able to change the approach somewhere in the middle of project or at some dates, because it's pretty, as I said, it's pretty common. Than the approach we first planned, it's not gonna work.
Exactly. Let's talk about bridging sales and delivery. And actually, Pia, continuing with you, how do you approach the handover between sales and delivery?
It sounds like you mean that there is some point where we shake hands, but I see it so that in ideal world, I would like the technical team who is implementing, they would join the sales phase as well. So basically then when we do the responsibility transfer, it would be just like handshake that, okay, we will take it from there. And we are already familiar with the scope and everything. And actually, we did all the technical definition already during the sales phase. So I would like it to work more like this instead of having some kind of official responsibility transfer, where the technical team here kind of for the first time what we are doing when the sales has signed the papers.
Yeah.
What's your take, Asger?
Yeah, because that exact
Finally, we
situation
agree
is part of I think a part of my answer to your previous question, right? What does it look like when it starts to go wrong? It's when you find in the contract that there's a clause saying it needs to have every feature of the old site without specifying what those were, right? Because it looked like it didn't do anything, but then you find out if you logged in as a veterinarian, it did all kinds of other things, and you're now on the hook for this.
Exactly.
So having at least the architect, an architect in the sales phase that will join the implementation phase at least for the first 3 to 6 months at least, helps build that kind of helps to bridge that process, but also helps ensure that whatever was promised was considered and is communicated and implemented, right? Because we wanted to, I mean, we can't have a trust me bro guarantee for everything, right? But still we are more interested in getting you to be a happy customer than digging into the minutiae of the contract.
Exactly.
Right? If you come and you say, but I know it said that, but that's not really what we need. We're not going to say, oh, but now we need to make a change request, and that we're going to charge you for the change request and for the time to handle it, and blah, 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 blah. And because that's not really anybody's happiness. So, and of course, we want that largeness on, I don't know if it's, but we want that looseness to kind of also come the other way, right?
Exactly.
As long as we can have that kind of relationship where we give a little, we take a little, and that makes it a lot easier to navigate these, because if we have to navigate it by the bullets of the contract, it's going to be a different kind of budget and different kind of contract, right?
Exactly.
So,
What do you think, Silke?
Yeah, and maybe it's because my previous role as a project manager, but I also feel like it's super important as the project manager to be involved in the sales process with the customer. Maybe in the end where everything is really hot and we're really close to, seal the deal, because that is the person that needs to create the heartbeat and need to create the relationship, and to be sure that we have all these different people, cultures, and wishes to be working together. So I feel like sometimes it's really difficult to be, put in the mix really in the end, because you have some expectation that you want to have the customer to be aware of. Like you need to commit to this. And I'm unsure if that has been talked so much, because now everybody is just so excited about the new features and what we can get and what we can do.
I think that one of the things that we're doing on some projects is to have. I mean, I know we have some steering committee meetings and so on, right? But we actually have some projects where we start them off with more of a study phase, right, where we define what are the KPIs you're hoping to gain, how we're going to measure them, doing all this kind of stuff that kind of we assume that they would have done already. But we find that in practice often boils down to, did we make more money? Didn't we make more money? Right? But that's not always the correct KPI, right? Maybe not the right way to measure it, because and so by having like a business track in addition to the technical track, we can at the steering committees address both of those, right? We can say, so on a technical part, when we're doing fine, on the business part, we're not seeing the kind of impact that we kind of saw. That means that you're also governing it in a different kind of way. So even though that's not really the implementation thing, it's still, because it's kind of defined at the outset, you see the impact of the implementation into that. And I feel that if the team isn't available, well, typically the team isn't set until the client is sealed, but the technical lead will be, appointed fairly early. And you want to have some kind of recognition when the team actually gets started, right? You don't want to, these 5 people sold me something. Where they at, right? Where's the guy who said that's not a problem? You want to have somebody you can say, dude, you told me that this would be fine.
Yeah.
And kind of have that little bit of accountability into it, right?
Yeah. Accountability is a good word for that. If I were to state that the definition phase is often underestimated, how would you feel? Agree, disagree, or why is it, if you agree?
The definition phase of a project is where everybody pours their hopes and dreams into the bucket, and then if we take that all into account, there's also a budget that kind of has to kind of be the bucket in which these dreams can fill up, right? If the budget is small, you can have very few or very small dreams. But if so I think that the definition phase should be only as specific as to identify the very critical success indicators of this project. And you need to get to a point where you know that this is the most important thing, this is going to have the biggest impact, and we're going to measure it like this. Because if that doesn't happen, everything else doesn't matter, right? No reason to talk about how your future loyalty club flow, whatever, is going to do if you're not getting customers into the system. So I feel that you can say that it's underestimated, maybe, or but not necessarily in terms of time, but maybe more in terms of how do you cut down to the very specific things you actually need to do, right? How do you identify those? How do you get a common understanding that everybody can agree to, that if we do this, that's the core nugget of success.
Great points. Silke and Pia, what would be your advice for someone in the definition phase?
To get the right people involved. The worst thing you can do on the customer side is to have the woman of decision not being part of that pool. Because I have been in projects or definitions phases where you have discovered, a lot of good stuff, and you have agreed, with the customer and the team, and this is doable. And then the woman of power comes in and say, no, that was not what I wanted. And then everything is, back to, and everybody has wasted a lot of time. So I feel like the first start is to get the right people involved and give that definition phase their own power to be successful.
I would add that there needs to be power to make decisions, or even capability to make decisions, because of course usually people who are joining the definition phase, we gather all the wishes, and then there's usually limited budget or limited something, so we are not able to implement everything, or customer, they need to simplify their processes or something like that. So we need the ones who are able to make decisions and kind of define the targets. So I think that's the most important thing and key to success.
And then it's also speaking into us, the honest conversation, what is actually possible to deliver, because everybody can dream really big.
Theme which has come up quite a bit, even though we haven't explicitly talked about it that much, is trust. And I want to end up in our final segment and talk about kind of trust as a delivery engine, if I may. I want to start with you, Asger. How does trust shape the way a team delivers?
Building trust with the client from the technical developer side, right? From the trenches, from the ground floor, where we are just mechanical janitors coming in to beep and bop your doodles. I mean, that is essential, right? Because in a lot of ways, what we're doing is not necessarily easy to explain. And it can look like magic, or it can look superficial. You might say, how can you spend so long on something so small? Because underneath there's a mountain of stuff. And if I don't have your trust that you believe that it will take a week to do this, and I can get it done. And so first of all, you have to trust me that it's a good idea. that I have the right approach, even though you often we find that people will have, of course, this thought about, could we solve it like this? Could we solve it like that? And that's called like an XY solution, right? We had problem X, we thought of solution. So now we're asking for Y because that's how we think that it should be done. But if you trust me enough to kind of let me dig back a little bit and get to the core of what you're trying to do, I can often maybe advise something that's more in the realm of what you're trying to do, right? And but you're not going to allow that if you don't have trust in the people across from you, right? Like when you're turning in your car to a mechanic, you're going to trust that they're going to put the wheels back on right? Because otherwise you're not going to come back there again.
Exactly.
So, but you're not going to have large philosophical discussions about your business with the mechanic. I'm just a digital mechanic in this. So you get to these people over here when you're going on the more broad strokes of business. And I try, of course, to dabble a little bit. I want to know what we're trying to achieve overall, but in the sense, the kind of trust that I build is the one where you can trust that if I tell you that something is doable, that not only is it doable, I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to get it done by the time that you need it. And if I can't, you're going to know about it as soon as I know about it.
Really good points. Yeah.
And for me, trust through, this trying to communicate what's going on under the hood or, behind the closed door to the customer. It's also for me, it's because it's so important for me that the customer feels in control because it is quite uncontrollable. You need to be in control. You need to be,
Have agency.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's sort of being in control for me helps when you are really open and honest in the communication. And that is also because I always thrive to have status meeting with the customer and with developers in the same pool, so we can hear about what's difficult and we can hear about what's easy together.
But it definitely requires trust, because usually when we start the implementation, it takes time to build foundations and start the actual development. And then we keep sending bills to our customers, but they basically see nothing visible yet. So of course we need to communicate really carefully what's happening and how are we progressing, and if there's any issues or anything, so that they know that in the end something will come.
Of course,
you
can be, you need to figure out how to be honest. It's not, the best way to slack the customer, say everything is shit, it's not working. That's sort of, open and honest. Communication is there is different ways of being honest.
It's true.
But one thing that we have to have trust in the customer as well, right? Because if we're to allow them to do this continuous delivery, they can stop tomorrow, right? They can just say there is no next. They can change their mind and say, I'm not paying for any of this. This wasn't what I thought it was. And because we didn't stop to like fill out paperwork and get it by the lawyer and get it sent to them and then wait 3 weeks. Nobody can remember what they were thinking about 3 weeks ago when they doing this, right? We want that immediacy of creativity to be expressible by a simple yes and no, right? And we trust then that they're going to honor that once billing comes around, right? Because if that trust is broken as well, right, then that means that we have to get more administrative on that level. That means that we have to pull back from this, from that particular way of working to a more, controlled way, or way that's fitting more with the in line with the relationship as it then looks, right?
Exactly. Really, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I have a final question I want to ask all of you. What would be your final words of advice or wisdom to any listeners?
When you're talking to the technical team, get a feeling for having them show you their work, right? You don't need to understand the work, but you need to feel that they care about it, that they're passionate about it, that they know what it's going to look like when it's done. Because that's the only way, mostly, that you can gauge what kind of interaction you're going to have, right? Because if you can't feel the passion, if you don't feel that they are as engaged as you are, and you're the customer, so you're supposed to be the most engaged, right? Because this is your job, this is your company's money being spent on something. And if these people can't provide more than you're paying, it's not going to work, right? It's not going to make any sense. So you want that to look good. You want to that relationship to look good. You want the results to be good so that you can come back to your boss and say, look what I did, a thing, and it's good. And everybody meets their goals, everybody gets promotions, raises, and live happily ever after.
What do you want to add?
It depends on, is it, advice for the customer side or for the developer side? But one thing I want to say is that everybody should talk about the reason behind what we are doing to understand why we are doing it. Yeah.
Very beneficial.
Yeah.
I would say decision making.
Yeah.
When having definition phase, making decisions, it's really important, and then during the project, making decisions in steering committee meetings and so on. I would say that's the key to be able to make decisions.
Pia, Silke, and Asger, thank you so much. This has been an incredibly lively and rich conversation. Now, if you're leading a project or part of one, this episode serves as a reminder. Successful delivery isn't about a checklist. As we heard, it's about relationships, clarity, and the courage to be honest when the plan changes. In the end, transformation is a journey, and delivery is where the journey becomes real. You've been listening to Simplifiers, brought to you by Soltec. If today's episode sparked an idea, share it with your team, subscribe for more, and join us next time. Until then, keep simplifying your digital world.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Soltec and how they help simplify digital transformation, visit their website, www.soltec.com. Simplifiers is produced in partnership with Soltec by Here Media.